Next up at Migration 2020 is EAA CEO and Chairman of the Board, Jack Pelton.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be at, looks like, the closing of the 2020 virtual migration session. I know that it's not quite the same as being there, and this is not a glossy PowerPoint presentation filled with facts and numbers and figures and those kinds of things. So I asked Charlie, what are the topics that you'd like me to cover if, since you've so graciously invited me to be here? And there is one big benefit of not being there is that Roger Sharp can't do his usual attacking, shredding, uh, sending me home in the fetal position after he's done with his critique of anything and everything I've ever done in my life. It's always a lot of therapy afterwards. It's rough. So while I will have missed that, Charlie suggested, he said, EA has really worked hard on the Proficiency Center. And so I thought about it, and while that's maybe a 10-minute topic, I thought I'd try to spend a half hour here kind of recapping how did EA get into the Proficiency Center? What's EA's involvement? What's EA's involvement in flight training? And kind of give a little history, reflect on kind of where we are today and where we're actually going. Um, I'm really looking forward to the live Q&A, and I hope we can get into some lively discussions there, and we'll see where that might take us on any topic. It's fair game. Everything's wide open. Let me just kind of wind the clock back to the 50s and 60s when EA was founded. One of the interesting things when EA was founded, we created divisions. So you had EA as the overall association, but there was the Warbirds division, the Vintage division, the IAC, which is International Aerobatic Club division, and Home Built area. And when Paul Poberezny founded the organization, and he was very interested in the aerobatic component, actually then I think it was just called EA Aerobatic Club, it wasn't about competition. Paul's real vision was that grassroots pilots, general aviation pilots, all of us needed to continue to work on our stick and rudder skills. And he had thought that there would be a good opportunity in doing basic training of loops and rolls and spins, which was very in vogue as to how the flight training back in the day was when spins were required. But he really did truly believe and feel that that would be good proficiency in keeping pilots safe and really enhancing and bettering their stick and rudder skills. Now, that was a founding principle, and we've wrestled around with where IAC has gone because it's become so heavily competitive around aerobatic contests themselves. And there is training that occurs from a proficiency stick and rudder skill standpoint, but it's probably evolved a little bit too far into the pure competition side. So as we continue to migrate through history, that topic's been on the table as to how do we really work on helping pilots improve their overall stick and rudder proficiency, which stick and rudder being a piece of that, and then on into the instrument flying and skills associated with IMC flying. The stick and rudder skill piece of it, we've wrestled with, well, how do we encourage and have a member offering or value proposition around that with an understanding that I think the statistics show that the average pilot, if they fly 50 hours a year, that's about it. And I know when I learned to fly, my dad, who was my mentor and got me into aviation and was an EA chapter member, he told me, he says, if you're going to make this commitment and you're going to go forward with it, he was a pilot and flew C-47s in World War II. Stateside, he wasn't overseas, but he was in the airlift command. He said, you've got to continue to make it a part of your life and fly at least 50 hours a year or more, and continue to train and continue to develop your skills if you want to remain safe. And he said, basically, if you're not, I'm going to encourage you to go take up another hobby or another interest because you aren't doing it properly. You're not going to be doing it the right way to ensure good outcomes. And so that's always stuck in the back of my mind from my early flying days. So knowing all of that, we've wrestled with, as an association, as we kind of move forward now into the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, that the safety record of general aviation has always been front and center as having not been what it really should be, not the greatest. Matter of fact, last year it was actually, we fell backwards and it was really bad. So as an association, we've taken safety to be one of our key mantles of something that we want to, for the sake of the community and the industry, focus on the whole issue regarding the safety topic. Uh, we have a scorecard we look at every month. It initially started with looking at home built safety records because that was one of the worst. Really looking at the data, trying to understand the trends, trying to understand issues around specific designs, specific pilot issues. What are all of the things that are driving the safety record, and how could we help be a part of? How could we help promote better practices? How do we get our heads around all of that? And it's evolved today where between AOPA and EA, there's and only the FAA and the government would have a wonderful acronym, the GJASC, I think I'm getting that right, which is a Joint General Aviation Steering Committee around safety, that swaps the heads of that committee, which is part of the FAA, and the industry getting together. Is every 2 years it's an AOPA leader, and then it swaps to an EA, and then goes back to AOPA and back to. So we collaborate very well on that. And AOPA, is, we all know, with their Safety Institute, is really the pioneers and great leaders today in the whole topic of safety. We are not in the flight training business. We have chapters. We have over 800 chapters in the United States. We promote grassroots aviation. We promote building. We promote restoring. And as an underpinning of that, we're trying to promote this proficiency topic, and how do we enhance the safety to have a good safety record, because there's nothing more difficult than trying to convince a young person and their parents to get involved in aviation if all they think it is something that is highly unsafe. And so we have to have numbers and statistics to help support that, and we have to walk the talk in doing what we say as far as promoting the safety topic. So we're on the study side of looking at it. We created in the last, it's been now about 5 to 7 years, partnering with the organization, which was the IMC clubs, with which Radek was the founder. Joe Brown and I sat on his advisory board, and that's just celebrated its 10th anniversary of existence. And there became a point where the IMC club concept, which was a fantastic concept of getting people together, like-minded individuals that wanted to improve their IMC flying through basically a ground school-based gathering, a club, get together and go through scenarios, share best practices, look at different types of curriculum that were out there, scenarios that were created and produced on a monthly basis. And we pulled that into EAA and brought the IMC clubs in, made that a value proposition for our members and our chapters to have access to that, and expanded it beyond just IMC to actually have also VMC clubs. And we really are hoping and still believe that was an important piece of answering the original issue that Paul had, which was how do we promote and provide something around the proficiency and better stick and rudder skill topic. So far, we feel it's been very successful. It's been very well received. It's expanding. It's growing. There's a lot of additional programs that have come out of that and continue to come out of it that I'll talk about, and where we're eventually going with that. Radek is still a very key piece of that, and our leader internally that runs those programs through our chapters. What has occurred is that we then took that topic, and if you look back in 2012 at AirVenture, the IMC clubs had what they called a proficiency center on the campus at Oshkosh, and it started to grow and expand. Joe Brown, as I mentioned, who was on the IMC original advisory board and is also on the EA board, we got together and said, if we really believe in this and we believe it's really important, and Joe's probably, the number one advocate and ambassador around proficiency in my mind. I think he's a, fantastic example of somebody that's a successful businessman, but also flies for his business and takes it very professionally, takes it to the full extent of what any full professional pilot would do, and trains accordingly. To say, let's see if we can take this proficiency center concept and put it on steroids and really blow it out. And I say that in a good way at AirVenture. And we proposed right next to the Redbird exhibit, because Redbird was so integral into the Pilot Proficiency Center concept and startup, that we would have an on-purpose dedicated 1 week in the month of July every year, other than 2020, the ability to have some world-class simulators provided by Redbird, have NAFI and SAFE provide world-class CFIs to be able to provide instruction and scenarios that were created by them and other volunteers, that people could come into the center, they could get that hands-on instruction. It has a very large area for what we call Tech Talks that is sponsored by Jeppesen, and the Tech Talk areas is getting some of the world-class speakers around subjects like weather, flight planning tools, you name it. If it has to do with flying and proficiency, those topics are being covered. The Tech Talks, which we also capture in video, allow you to be able to get wings credit, which was an integral piece of, again, the value proposition of, while you're continuing to enhance your skills, your education, you're also achieving the credits from the FAA to get recognized for that, which we think was critically important. And it took off with great success. Requires a lot of volunteers, a lot of effort. And you think about it, it's not that you can, the volunteers you need are skilled people. They're CFIs to be able to provide the type of training to make it worthwhile for somebody to be at the Proficiency Center getting this type of curriculum and education. It continued to grow and expand. We have numerous other sponsors that have helped with that, and I would be remiss to make sure I don't I mentioned Redbird, Jeppesen, Mindstar Aviation, Community Aviation Safe, NAFI, Pilot Edge, and Cloud Ahoy. And so the concept has grown. It's been, I think we've had 5,000 people during the week that attended Tech Talks. We peaked out, I think, close to 3,000 people through the simulators, and that's about what we figured the full throughput could be for the 14 simulators that are in there, along with a crosswind trainer. And it's gone remarkably well. And it's gone well enough that, again, we have been looking and now been implementing as to how do we continue to expand the concept beyond the 1 week a year AirVenture pilot proficiency experience. And so we've expanded our IMC Club and VMC Club offerings to have enhancements to where we're calling it Pilot Proficiency 365. We have partnered with Cloud Ahoy to create an app that's a skills tracker that I think we had a quote from Michael Goulian that talked about, proficiency is one thing, the training is one thing, but what measured is what gets done, and what's measured shows you the improvement and the progress that you're making to continue to enhance your skills in the areas that you may need. And the skills tracker does just that, and it's an exclusive offering for EA members through our EA website, www.ea.org. And if you look at the top bar and click on pilots, Proficiency Center and all of those offerings are in that area. And yes, that is a shameless plug. For $40 a year, an EA membership is probably one of the cheapest subscription clubs you can belong to and highest value. Prices haven't gone up since I think the 80s, which we probably will have to address at some point here if we continue to have some of the rough non-AirVenture times. But it's all encompassed in there. And it also can direct you to where there are VMC and IMC clubs and the importance of all that. Again, we're hoping that we'll be able to collect data and show that There are enhancements in safety records as a result of it. We do encourage from the flight training audience that we have here at the Migration is that part of the skills tracker activity and part of the underpinning of having wings credits along with doing the in-flight training on a recurring basis is encouraging people to get with CFIs and perform that type of training and proficiency work. As I said, EA we don't have flight schools, and that's not our thing. Our thing is, through our chapter network, is getting young people into aviation, being a supportive organization to people who are restoring, building, and continuing to fly, providing resources for that. And we like to point them to the flight schools and the other areas to actually learn to fly. We're still giving out an incredible number of scholarships on an annual basis that are, we give $110,000 full flight scholarships to young people through chapters, and we direct them or help them find places for them to learn to fly, which is very, very important for this audience. So where was I? So as you look forward to what EA is about in the proficiency topic, we're going to continue to make that very integral into everything that we do, and we're going to continue to expand the whole content piece of proficiency, as you'll see on the website. The other exciting news is where's this really going? What is our commitment long term to what this is going to look like? Excuse me. The further discussions with Joe and with Charlie and the question I always ask is, we have these wonderful things we do during AirVenture, but how do we make them a year-long experience? How do we expand our offerings? How do we use these assets, which are 14 wonderful simulators, a lot of good curriculum that's been established, and be able to offer that year-round? We came up with a concept which was to create a proficiency center in a full-time facility year-round that's next to our museum. So we undertook the fundraising last year to commit to building a 30,000 square foot addition to our museum with a brand new, very modern facade to it with a separate entrance. The first floor is going to be the proficiency center and house the simulators. We're going to have some additional motion-based simulators in there, some classrooms, some individual areas for CFIs and students to work one-on-one. Second floor is going to be the other grand piece of, again, answering the question of how do we do these neat things at AirVenture 1 week a year, do them year-round. We're going to have KidVenture, which is one of our hands-on activities for young people, where they work in stations, learning stations, learning labs, if you will, and that will be on the top floor. It's about a $5+ million undertaking to do that. We had a little COVID setback. We had actually hoped that we were going to do the groundbreaking in July at AirVenture. Our fundraising was a little slow because everyone went literally underground in March. I'm very, very proud to say we are now right at about 4.8 or 5 million just closed today on another round of donations that came in that were significant to be able to get this thing launched right away. So we're actually going to start doing some of the groundwork before the first freeze comes up in Oshkosh. And we will have a world-class pilot proficiency center that will be year-round. We have lots of ideas and visions for it. The most important piece of it is to be able to get it activated and get it used year-round. We recognize it'll be a lot of heavy weekend use. We hope that we can get type clubs and different training groups in on weekends to do proficiency training. Radic's working very hard with the FAA on some CFI refresher training that they'll be able to get credit for and use the facility for that kind of activity. I think it's a natural for type clubs to come up to AirVenture, come up to Oshkosh 9 months a year, 10 months a year when the weather. I mean, yeah, we have a couple rough winter months, but we'll have you have the full access to the museum. You've got the facilities there. We'll have this beautiful training facility. We think we can do a lot of immersion. We can do a lot of other things, including flying right there out of the airport at Whitman Field. So very excited about the progress that's coming on that and getting that underway. And it came about, the roundabout story was Joe Brown again and I discussing, what are we doing with these simulators, and isn't there a way we could put at first concept was, do we go out on the grounds where the existing proficiency center is and make that a permanent building and try to use it year round? And as it evolved and grew in the discussion, we figure that's too remote, and if you do have rough weather, it'd be difficult to access it. We're inside the museum, easy access, good parking, hotels right there, and it grew in complexity and cost, but thanks to numerous donors who have really bought into the vision and have given some very significant gifts to be able to make this a reality. It's on its way, and we believe the next piece of this, as the construction gets underway, we hope to have it. I don't know if it'll be ribbon cutting AirVenture 2021 or if it'll be shortly thereafter, but I think the next big piece of it is the programming side of it. To be able to start working with groups like NAFI and SAFE and the different type clubs to understand what exactly their training needs are, how to get people to be able to start volunteering to provide the volunteers that we need to be able to do the training, and be able to come up with course content and offerings that we can promote for 3-day weekends or midweek during the summer prior to AirVenture, have other kinds of training opportunities. And so it's big, it's bold, it's exciting. We can't wait. It's going to be all based about proficiency. We hope that Redbird will use it as an opportunity to also run seminars out of there as a ability to train on their devices as to how to use them with CFIs. So it's just, excuse me again, it's just going to be something that we are very excited and is really coming about very, very quickly. So that's how EA's involvement in proficiency, where we're going with it, what our full intent is, why we're behind it. We think there's a lot of wonderful things that AOP are doing that we collaborate on and that they have expertise in. I think the Rusty Pilot program is just brilliant as an example, and I hope it's driving some of those pilots back to UCFIs to get them current and keep them active again. We hope our chapters will be a place for people who re-engage, have a place to hang out with like-minded fellow pilots. Both of us are working on the whole flying club concept to try to expand and reduce the cost of aviation and flying to be able to get people into airplanes. We look at it from I hate to say this to my friends who produced that wonderful brand new metal and composite Part 23 airplanes, but you can get an Aranca Champ for $25,000, $30,000 in perfect shape and put a couple of folks together in a flying club and be able to continue to fly and enjoy your passion of flying very economically. And so we're promoting that along with the home building. We're really focusing hard on our advocacy work around that. You're going to see a lot of things coming up in the near term on some regs that the FAA is changing around a project that they call Mosaic, and it's another one of these wonderful FAA acronyms that roll off your tongue beautifully, but no one can ever remember what the acronym stands for. But I think that the vision of Mosaic is making sense because this is going to do a lot with reclassification of LSA, getting airplanes who aren't just weight limited into that category of airplanes. It's also going to help in the home built community because one of the issues we have in the home built community is commercial use for flight training of home builts, and there's so many wonderful home built, well proven, well engineered kits that are out there of aircraft that can fill that need in the flight training market to help again with affordable entry level good training airplanes with a lot of the new experimental flight decks that are in there. I had an experience of getting checked out in an RV-12 LSA with a full Garmin suite with integrated autopilot, and other than the fact it's not IFR legal, It does everything that a Citation Mustang does as far as the automation and its capabilities. It's absolutely brilliant on 3.8 gallons of auto fuel an hour. So these are the kind of barriers that we're trying to knock down and be able to get people, again, into aviation at a lower cost point. So our advocacy effort is going to be around that. We're still working hard with all the other associations on any of the advocacy that does deal with training and dealing with flight training. I think we've all recognized that the regs and the rules haven't changed forever, and when you no longer can find an economical airplane that has a little switch that puts the gear up so you can get your commercial airplane, your commercial license check ride done. Finally, some common sense is coming that there is ways to simulate this type of stuff and be able to have it work for you. We're still really keen on the whole use of simulation and the use of curriculum associated with simulation to be able to help the training experience, facilitated from a cost standpoint, facilitated from a number of hours in the day that you can do it, the types of days you can actually go fly where it could be 0-0 with snow outside and you can still be getting good flight lessons inside in the use of a simulator. And I know there's a lot of back and forth and issues and hurdles on all of that, but I think we just got to get our heads around it that long term that's what's necessary. The pilot shortage is not going to come to an end because of COVID. As the airlines recover over the next 2 years, every year that goes by, the retirement number of pilots that have to mandatory retire is going to occur, so they're going to be going out the top. And then with the lower end not being fed at the rate that it was, it's going to create, again, more pent-up demand for pilots down the road. There's that path, and then there's the path that we certainly are so heavily engaged in, which is just good recreational, the joy of flying, the ability to have the freedom to get up and go from A to B, to go visit friends and do other things that general aviation provides for you. But I can tell you on all of the wonderful reasons why that's so important, and always has been, at least personally in my life. So that's what EA is focused on. That's where we're going on the proficiency topic. That's where we're going in using simulation, and that's where we hope we'll be able to work with all of you in our new facility and have everybody be able to partake in getting some good structured different types of classes and curriculums. I encourage you to check out what we have to offer through our VMC and IMC club offerings. Our skill tracker, we're very, very excited about. It's exclusive EA product. Cloud Ahoy's tool has made that possible. It's getting very, very good reviews, and I think the feedback that it gives you in your training is going to be very, very helpful for people to get much more precision on very specific tasks. Advocacy still, one of our key value propositions, and we're keeping the FAA in Washington on their toes, making sure that we are protecting the things that we need to protect and moving rules and regulations in the direction we need to go. The big topic, we said I was only going to talk about proficiency, but July of 2021, we will have AirVenture. What it will look like, what it will be like, what the world will look like on then, I have no idea. But it's safe to feel that between the therapeutics and the vaccines and the herd immunity and other things, that having an event, maybe not to the size that it has, because I think some people will opt out just by sheer, that's their own conscious decision as to whether they want to deal with crowds or not. We're going to be equipped to be able to have the event, and we're right now going through all of the processes and protocols to, as every day that goes by that we know more and we know what is and isn't allowed, to be able to be able to flex our facilities for example, theater in the woods spacing in every other chair and that kind of stuff. But certainly being outside, spread out under the wing of an airplane probably is one of the safest environments you can be in. Sanitization or disinfectant protocols, we're exploring and working with some world-class companies on being able to implement that. And as we get further down the road, we'll start publicizing exactly what we're going to do. But every day we get up, we're working on, we're going to have it, and we'll just see what it looks like as we get closer to that date, which seems like it's happening already pretty quick as this year's closing out. And we're busy with all of our other. We're not just a 1 week a year association. We've got a lot to do with the publications we publish and all the assists we do for our members. Sorry, can't be there, or none of us can be there. Matter of fact, I think next year we were hoping we might have this migration at the new proficiency center. We'll see how the timetable runs on that. I think it's been a good week. There are good 2 days for everybody. The content of migration this year again is excellent, as it always is. I hope everybody's walking away feeling charged up and anxious to get out there and train and hone your skills and bring more people into aviation. So with that, I'm going to officially end this pre-recorded piece of it, and we'll open it up to live Q&A. Look forward to that.